Hey budget gardeners, Vita Loca here. Join me today as I show you my process for sterilizing my seed starting containers. So let's go. Well, I am very excited, and the reason is because I am officially thinking about starting my plants from seed indoors under my grow lights. And I think a lot of you are probably in the same boat. But you know, in order to grow healthy seedlings, sometimes we have to take certain precautions. And I will be the first to admit that I have not been very good about cleaning out my used pots and containers from year to year. And generally speaking, that has not been a problem for me. However, there have been times when I've had particular six packs, for example, have damping off. And damping off is a certain type of fungal disease. And I'm going to put on the screen a picture of what a plant looks like when it's experiencing damping off. And from what I've seen on the internet, it sounds like I'm not the only one that's experienced this. I wonder, have you ever had a plant that was growing just fine in the initial stages as a little seedling, and then all of a sudden one day a whole bunch of the plants are wiped out and they just have fallen over? Typically, that is a sign that your plant is experiencing damping off. There are a few things that cause damping off, but one of the big reasons is because the pot or the container that the plants are growing in has been infected and was not properly cleaned. Now, years ago, I used to buy my own little six packs, and I would buy them every single year. And then over the years, as I've accumulated those, I just have been reusing them. And sometimes I would just give them a quick rinse with water outside, or I would just tap off the dirt, but that's as far as it went. And generally speaking, that should be fine as long as there was nothing in that six pack or seed starting type of tray that had any sort of fungal disease. But I don't want to take any chances this year. I want to make sure that at a minimum, I am starting with nice, clean, fresh trays and six packs and anything that has to do with starting my seeds. So I wanted to make this video for you to share with you what I'm planning to do to clean and sterilize or disinfect all of my seed starting supplies. So you can see around me, I have a bunch of things. I want to go over all the supplies that I have here. We'll start with over here on this table. There are a bunch of 10 by 20 solid bottom trays. I have a ton of these, and these are all used. I've used them over the years. Some of them did have small little pinholes in them because you know how it is. Over the years, when you're using things, sometimes things start to break, or in this case, with these type of trays, they just end up with a little hole at the bottom of the tray. And what happens is when I go to bottom water my seedlings, all of a sudden water is dripping out from those little pinholes. So for today, what I did was I just took each tray, held it up to the light, and I looked to see if there were any little pinholes on them. If there were, I put them in their own pile. So this pile of trays right here, there are no pinholes. I want to make sure that I'm basically starting this process off on the right foot. And all the other trays that have the pinholes on them, I'll amend them. I will probably put some sort of a tape, something to make sure that the water doesn't leak. But I'm not going to worry about that today. So I have these trays here. I also have a lot of different sizes of these six packs here. So you can see they are, like this one has a leaf on it. They're all used. And when it comes to a lot of these trays that we're looking at over here and cell packs, they either came from my yard, they came from my neighbors, they came from my friends, they came from my family members, they came from people that buy from my backyard plant nursery, or they came from a local nursery that I go to where they recycle pots and you can take pots if you need them. And so they came from all different places. I have no idea if any of them have any sort of pathogen or any sort of fungal issue going on with them. I don't want to take a chance. I am going to be cleaning them all. Now, in my barn, I have a ton more where all this came from. It's a little embarrassing, but remember, I've been gardening for 30 years, so I've been collecting as I go. Otherwise, it gets very expensive. My big thing is I do like to reuse. I think that's very important, at least for me. I don't want to waste. I like to garden on a budget. So I took just a small handful to start with because I don't want to be overwhelmed right now with this whole cleaning process. It is December, and to be honest with you, I wish I had done this whole process in the spring uh, when it was warmer out and I had access to my hose. Well, I don't have that right now. It's okay. I'm going to work with what I have, and it's today. It's about 40 degrees, perfectly fine. So I have lots of different sizes of cell packs here to play with. And then I got these actually either from a friend or from the backyard plant nursery. I'm not sure where, but they're perfect for basically germinating a bunch of plants all at once. And I like how they have the holes on the bottom so I can bottom water while I have a whole bunch of seeds planted in here. So that's great for like multi-sowing and things like that. So I have a bunch of these to clean, and that will get me started off on the right foot. And then I have a whole bunch of these trays, and these are perfect for small little seedlings. I plan on starting my wax begonias pretty soon, and if you've ever started them before, the seeds are like dust, and when the plants do emerge, they are very tiny. I don't need to waste a 6-pack, at least not to start with. So I grabbed a bunch of these that I had, and I figured I can go ahead and clean these as well. And down over here, I have a couple of big totes. You can use a 5-gallon bucket. You can use, one of those clear totes, something that you can put water in so it makes it easier to clean. And the size of these totes is 27 gallons. And I got these from Sam's Club. And these are actually Mr. Budget Gardener's. He bought them so he could organize the barn. They are brand new. Well, guess what? He has not used them yet. So I'm borrowing them for at least cleaning my pots. And I have a total of 3 of them. And you see 2 here, and I have one off to the side. And I'll go over how I plan on using these pretty soon. Over here, I have some dish detergent. It's just, generic, no name brand really. It's Walmart, great value brand, dish detergent. I have a couple of small little brushes. I have a box of gloves. They're the disposable type of gloves. And then I have bleach. So when it comes to cleaning and disinfecting, sterilizing, all of this, I did a lot of research on that. And initially, I was thinking of using white vinegar. I actually have quite a bit of it. And I was thinking, oh, that would be great. I could just use that. The whole reason I have quite a bit of it, just in case you're wondering, is I had heard that you could pour vinegar on like weeds and it helps kill weeds in the yard. So I bought a bunch from Sam's Club and I still have them laying around. I'm not going to use the white vinegar, and I'll tell you why in a minute. And then I also have some hydrogen peroxide sitting around, and I had read that you could use hydrogen peroxide. And after doing a bit of research, quite a bit of research, in fact, what I did was I ended up going to a bunch of different university websites, like cooperative extension websites. I started with the local one near my house, but then I went to a whole bunch of other ones in different states. I wanted to figure out what's the best way for me to do this project. And based on my research, what I found is that bleach was the best way to do this when it comes to cleaning all these pots and containers. And certain things you have to be careful about. You want to make sure that, I'm in the garage and the garage door is open. I don't want to be inhaling this. I'm going to be using gloves. This will be diluted down. I'm not using the full concentrated amount. I'll be rinsing off the pots after using this. I'll be sure to be very safe with this. But based on my research, I found that this is the best way for me to clean and sterilize all of my equipment here. And let's face it, there's nothing more frustrating than starting seedlings indoors. You're watching your little babies grow, and then all of a sudden they fall over because of some sort of damping off. That is such a bummer. It's happened to me, and I don't want to have that happen to me again. So one big way to prevent that is by properly sterilizing all my seed starting equipment here. Okay, so step one is to take your containers or pots, and you want to basically clean out all of the dirt, all of the debris that's on them. And some of them look almost brand new, and some of them have dirt caked inside of them. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to be filling up this tote with water. And we're also going to put just a few drops of this liquid soap detergent inside of there. And the whole goal is to basically loosen off and get off all the dirt from all of these containers here. So let's go ahead and do that right now. Okay, so I have one bin here filled up with the soapy water, and the other one is just clean water. And the goal is to remove as much of the dirt or soil off of everything over here by starting in this bin here. And I will be using one or both of these type of brushes to help loosen the dirt off of there. And then after that, I can take each tray and put it in the clean water to rinse it. Now, if you live in a cold area like I do, and you're trying to do the same exact thing during a very cold day, one thing that I thought of that I could have done is boiled some water, and I could have added some warmer water in here just so the water is not freezing. But I think I'll be okay today. But I started thinking about that afterwards. Like, it would have been nice to add some warm water in here. You don't want to burn your hands though, but that was one idea. All right, so what I think I'm going to do is I'll just try to take off some of the dirt in this tray here, just to get rid of some of it. And I'll go ahead and actually, why don't I take you in for a closer look so that you can see exactly what I'm doing here. It's always a good idea to roll up your sleeves just so they don't get all wet. But I'm just basically trying to swish around this tray or cell pack in the water. And I can just use one of my little hand scrubby tools here just to clean and get through some of the cracks. I think after I get through cleaning all of these, I think it's just going to be such a satisfying feeling. Definitely hard to get through some of the cracks, but again, just by rinsing them in the water, that's getting most of the debris off from what I can see. And now I can go ahead and rinse them off. So I'll leave it in there. And what I could do at this time is I can take a whole bunch of these, because let's face it, our time is precious, right? So they can be soaking in here like this. And notice I did not fill this all the way up with water. It would have been way too heavy for me to drag this back into the garage. I already had a hard time dragging it in with just this amount of water. But I made sure I put in what I believe to be is enough water to at least be able to cover all of these different types of cell packs and trays that I have. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same process, which is basically, again, just taking my little hand brush here and just loosening up any of the soil and dirt that I see. And as I go through each one, again, I want to then put each of these 6-packs over in the clean water, where if I did miss any dirt on any of these, they're going to continue, the dirt's going to continue to be rinsed off in the clean tub just by sitting in there. So I'm making really good progress, and I just wanted to share a couple of pointers. I think I already mentioned this, but when it comes to the cell packs, the trays, anything like that, if there's a lot of old dirt caked on there, it's definitely better to try to just bang some of it off before you put it in the soapy water. Just because, you know, why add that in here if you don't have to? So that's tip number one. And the next tip is, if you're going to do this project like I am right now in the winter months and it's cold where you live, absolutely add some warm water to this, because my hands are freezing. And it's all good. I know this is all for a good reason. I want to be able to use nice, clean seed starting supplies, which I'm going to be using within the next few weeks. So it's for a good reason. But that's my next tip, is to use warm water. And then also, you know, don't inundate yourself with so many pots and so many trays. I know I have a ton in stock, but it would be an unrealistic goal for me to set if I said I'm going to clean all of them in one sitting. So I feel like the goal that I set for myself today is realistic. I'm going to feel good about myself, and it will jumpstart me for the season. So set a realistic goal of how much you want to clean, but make it worthwhile. If I only did 2 or 3 cell packs, it's really not worthwhile for me personally, because if I'm going to go through all of this and set it up, then you might as well set it up and have enough trays and enough cell packs to last you for a little while. And the next tip is in this bin right here that has the water that I'm just basically letting all these cell packs sit in. I started here, I rinsed them out with the soapy water, and it's good. It's good for all these cell packs to be sitting in here, and they basically have just been soaking again. So my next tip is to throw a whole bunch of cell packs in here so that they're pre-soaking. Let them stay in here and tackle them one at a time. And as you clean them, then move them into this bin over here that just has clean water. And you'll start accumulating a whole bunch of your seed starting supplies in this bin. And you can see that this has a whole bunch now in here. I've run out of room and I still have more to clean. So at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these all out, and I'm just going to lay them out on my driveway in the sun, and I'm just going to let them dry over there until I'm ready for the next step. So those are the tips that I can think of right now. So let me finish up with what I'm doing here, and then I'll show you the next step. So everything has been cleaned in the soapy water solution that was here, and then everything was rinsed off in the water that had nothing in it that was over here. After all that was done, I dumped out both containers, and both containers right now just have fresh water in them. So the next thing to be done is to add the bleach to the water. Now, the ratio is very important. The ratio is 9 parts water to 1 part bleach. So use whatever you need to use to do that measurement or that ratio. I used a 5-gallon bucket, and I was able to figure out how much water I needed for this container of my bleach. And also, the important fact when it comes to the bleach is once I pour the bleach in the water, for about 2 hours, that's when the bleach is the most effective. In other words, if I pour this in here and I walk away, and 5 hours later I decide to do this job, that water is not as effective or potent to do the job that it needs to do with the bleach solution in it. So you want it, as soon as you pour the bleach in the water, you want to then go ahead and put your clean pots in there. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm wearing my gloves, and I want to very carefully pour this in there without it splattering everywhere. And it's always good, if you want to wear clothes that won't get stained if the bleach does splash. And also, you want to make sure you're doing this where it's in a good ventilated area. So here are some of the pots that are clean, and they look clean. They look very clean. I can tell you they are not 100% clean of soil. That is okay. I mean, it is as good as it's going to get. It's much better than before. The main chunks of the soil are off, but do they look brand new out of the store? They don't. I'm okay with that. I know that they are good and clean, but they are not sterilized. I could still get some sort of fungus or bacteria. So it's very important to do this next step. And you'll notice that I have them stacked like this. I'm going to take them apart in smaller stacks. The water and bleach solution will absolutely still get in between all the cracks. And once I submerge these, and that's the key, is to make sure that they're submerged under the water, I have at least 10 minutes that I want to keep these in here. I really don't need any more than 10 minutes. So I'll put a timer on, and I'm going to go ahead and put these in. So I can take you in for a closer look just so you can see what they look like. The key is making sure that everything that's in here right now is fully submerged under the water. And I fit in as many as I could. And at this point, I'm going to wait 10 minutes. I'll put the timer on. Okay, so it's been 10 minutes. And at this point, the next step is to very carefully lift each of these trays up. And there's definitely water trapped in between the trays. And notice, there are gaps in each of these trays. And so it's okay to have pots or trays stacked like this. You just want to make sure that they're not stacked very tightly. So I'm just kind of moving them around just to get any amounts of this solution out. I want the least amount of bleach when I transfer them over into the next clean bucket. So I think that's pretty good. So once I transfer it over, I'm going to do the same thing. I just want to make sure I submerge these down. And I'm noticing as I push down that the pot is not fully covered with water. So after I move all of these over, I'm going to add a little bit more water to this bucket because you want to make sure that you're fully covering everything in here. So I'm going to go ahead and just keep emptying these out of this bin. I'm just turning these around just to get the water out of them as best as I can. Pushing down a little bit. And what will happen is after I transfer all of these into the clean bucket, I will continue with this process. I have all my trays that need to come in here, and also I have the trays that have the small little plugs. All of those need to get put into this bin here. And what I plan on doing for that is I will put one tray in at a time so that it fills up with water, and then I can stack the trays that way. But the key is putting them in one at a time. And when it comes to this bucket over here where it has the clean water, it really doesn't matter how long these pots stay in this bin. The big thing is after they've been sitting in there, I'll probably keep them in there for 10 minutes. And then what I'll do is carefully remove all the water from these cell packs. And I'm just going to let everything air dry. And I'll take them apart at that time. I want them to fully air dry. But I definitely have enough cell packs and trays to keep me busy for the first part of the winter months. So I'm very excited about that. And as I get close to needing more, I can do this process again. So I will go ahead and add some more water, just a little bit more to this bin. And I just want to make sure I'm fully covering all the pots that are in here. I'm going to go ahead and keep adding my trays into this bin over here and follow the same process. 10 minutes in here, and then they go in here for about 10 minutes or so just to get cleaned up, and then everything gets pulled out and pulled apart, and I'm going to then dry them. And I won't store them until they're fully dry. And then they are ready to go, and I am ready to start planting seeds and whatever else I want to put in here. Very happy about that. I hope this video was helpful for you and that you learned something new. Hopefully this motivated you. If you have any questions on the process, please leave a comment below. And until the next video, make it a great day with gardening.